This is Lady Anne, owner of KPNL Radio and hostess of the Caravan Library of Lore, and I support TESA. As an experiencer myself, I have filed my own reports with them, and the professionalism and heart they have shown my case goes above and beyond. If you have had an experience, I cannot recommend TESA enough.
Hi, this is Ernie Hudson, Winston Zedmore from Ghostbusters. I want to let you know that Ryan Stacy, he's created the Experiencer Support Association, TESA. You can check them out at www.tesacan.org. Now, they investigate paranormal, UFO, and provide support to experiencers. But you can check them out at, like I said, www.tesacan.org and see for yourself if they're really Ghostbusters. I can tell you this, they are a non-profit organization. Good luck, have fun, and keep it positive.
Good evening. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association. TESA is a UFO, paranormal, and paracryptid investigation association. We investigate everything belonging to the global phenomenon linked to highly strange and unexplained experiences. We also connect experiencers with other experiencers, creating a safe, positive environment to engage and discuss this phenomenon without judgment, criticism, or retribution. From the land of the white rolling sands, on the southeasterly tip of Georgian Bay, to all of you listening around the world, as we simulcast live on KPNL Radio, we salute you. If you want to go back and listen to our previous episodes, go to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to be instantly notified when we are live, not only for these episodes, but every single element TESA has to offer. On our website, tesacan.org, we have something for everyone. We have support for experiencers, data for independent researchers, and places to advertise for professional partners. Hello, everybody. Today is November 4th, 2021, and I, Ryan Stacy, am your host this evening. I'm a licensed private investigator, a citizen journalist, and the director of investigations for the Experiencer Support Association. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for joining us this evening. To super chat, click the $ next to your name in the comment box. All donations go back to the mission. If you're catching this on replay, please consider becoming a member and unlock bonus content, including behind the scenes and extended footage on new project developments and investigations. Just click the big blue button that says join. Our guest for tonight, season 3, episode number 35, is Dave Petrella. Dave Petrella is an astrologer, biologist, spiritual guide, and an Oak Island theorist. He has traveled to all 50 states and most of Canada doing research. Dave has studied world religions and spiritual traditions extensively, along with Eastern medicine, metaphysics, and topics related to extraterrestrial intelligence. Dave has been studying the TESA map. This is the map. And in this episode, we will explore his theories around what this map just might be. I will preface, Dave has had a little bit of an internet connection, but we're gonna make it through. So Dave, put on your tinfoil hat. We're about to go. Oh, and he disappears right on point. Where did you go, man? Where did you go? All right, well, let me bring my screen over here. So yeah, we've been having some difficulties with him connecting. That was like right on point when we were to bring him in. So hello, Serena. Hello, CC. Hello, Scarborough. Hello, Lisa. So I'm just going to talk to you guys while he pops in. He's been popping in and out since he started at 7:45. We haven't been able to get a solid connection with where he is. So let's just break out a Q&A if we can. Shriner Freemason symbols on the map. Okay, let's talk about the map. Let's do that. All right. So Shriner Freemason symbols on the map. Can you be a little bit more specific? Let me pull it up on the screen here. Let's see. I'll share my screen now, and hopefully he pops up. But if he doesn't pop up, then I guess we are just going to wing it and go from there. Sorry about that. We did try to troubleshoot it before he popped on, but unfortunately, where he's at, c'est la vie. So excuse me. Here we are. Moonlight, how you doing, man? Moonlight, good to see you, Kevin. Hey, Ryan, CC, Serena, SSS, Lisa, and Annie. Oh, Scarborough Sasquatch Station, right on. Oh, he's back. Here he is. Hello, sir. Are you with us?
Yep. Can you hear me, Ryan?
I can hear you now.
Great.
You like popped out like right when I was like, "Welcome to the show," and you were like gone.
I know. Well, actually, I had several windows open and knocked me out of all of my internet windows at the same time. So I had to go back to get the link and everything. But anyway, I think we got it.
Okay, I think we got it. So welcome. Put on your tinfoil hat. We're going to go down a rabbit hole. So how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Oh, yeah. I'm great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm really excited to talk about the map. I've been, I've been studying essentially the preliminary to that for 10 years. I mean, probably more than that if you include everything, but I can't wait to kind of get into it.
All right. Well, we will get into that. First things first, I want to know, just tell us a little bit like how this connection happened. Like you were telling me before, I was on a show. Do you remember the show it was that you saw me on? And we talked about the map?
Yep. I believe it was The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. And I was, in the chat room, and I was participating in the show for the podcast, and I saw the map came up, and he said, that you weren't quite sure necessarily all of the aspects of it, but you said, well, you know what? I know someone knows what it is. Mm-hmm. And so immediately, I typed him like, I know what it is, Ryan. And
yeah, so we talked privately after that show, and I remember you saying that you knew what it was. And you've seen it before, and that kind of proved that point that I'm really excited without hearing any of these things too. Mm-hmm. Before we get into that, though, as excited as I am, as I'm wearing the shirt, I got the screen all prepped with the screenshots, and the audience is pumped because they really want to know what this is too. I want to know why you are the way that you are. Like, how did you get to this? But before we do that, first.
Hello?
No, hey, sorry, man. It's the energy. Maybe the energy is just so strong right now that nobody really wants us to talk about this map. But what I want to get into first is I'm going to do our icebreaker from Tim the Demon Guy Morrison. All right, so the icebreaker, for those of you who are tuning in for the very first time, Tim, the Demon Guy Morrison, gives me the first question of the night. I'm going to open it and share it with you all for the first time, and we'll either answer it together or one of us will answer it, and then we'll get into the show. So Timmy asks today, would you rather see a ghost of a stranger or a ghost of someone you love? That's a good question.
Well, you want me to answer first, Ryan, or?
Sure, go ahead.
Probably a stranger, because the way that I interpret what a ghost is it's something, a spirit that's still trying to figure out what they're doing. There's some confusion. I think they probably haven't crossed over yet. I've heard that they're earthbound, that ghosts are earthbound, which is not a pleasant necessarily thing if you're trying to get to the spirit world. So, that probably it'd make me really sad, I think, if it was someone I knew. So, But you know what? Honestly, like I try to represent the entire spirit world, so I'm there for you know, any spirit that's struggling, trying to figure something out. I really try not to discriminate. So
Hey, they
sad
could
either
be
way.
people too. They could be people too. So I like
Right.
that. That's tough for me. Like, I mean, I've been fortunate enough not to have many pass in my life at this present time. Knock on wood. So, but I mean, I can imagine. I can imagine that. So I would say on the count of being emotional, and on the account of as an investigator wanting to understand what's going on, I would prefer a stranger. But then at the same time, a loved one, someone I know that's familiar, might really help too, might make it a little bit easier to understand what's going on. So that's my take on that. Thank you, Timmy, for that question. And hope wherever you are, you're not in the chat. So I hope you're watching. Maybe you're being a creep, not commenting. Say hello. Let us know that you're here. Okay, Dave, tell me why are you the way that you are? How did you get into astrology, biology, Oak Island theorist? I want to talk about Oak Island a little bit too, if we can.
Yeah, sure.
And then just real quick, and then we can get into the map from
Okay,
there.
well, I started with biology since 5th grade. I was reading pretty elaborate manuals and medical manuals even at that age. And, of course, none of the teachers knew what the things were. I would ask a question. I said, studying anatomy or something, and really basic anatomy. Of course, they had no idea what the answer was. So I went back and I consulted the books I had, at my house, my library that I started to build up when I was young. And I took biology very seriously. I started college for biology. And so, in terms of the tenets of I call it Western biology, which is, how it's taught in North America, or just even maybe, I'll just say North America. Yeah, we'll keep it North America. But then I never had any real exposure to the Eastern medicine or the Eastern science of biology. I'll get to that in a second. But so I had the biology background, and then I wanted to kind of like branch out a little bit. So I took a course in college on Greek and Roman mythology. And that was still to this day one of the best courses I've ever taken, because it wasn't, just like a story anymore. It was starting to get into what are called entheogens, which it bridges the gap between the biology and the mythology. It's something basically that you ingest, if people are not aware of this, in order to get yourself into a state to commune with, a divine presence or whatever. And so for the ancient world, that was the Amanita muscaria mushroom, which is that fairy tale mushroom that everyone probably is aware of from like the Russian mythologies and all this stuff. But anyway, that started to bridge the gap between the spiritual world and the biological world for me. And then, let's see, in terms of the timeline, I started studying in 2012. I started studying the chakra system, which is, people who do yoga be aware of the colors that go up the spine, the energy centers up the spine. I started that 2012. And then in 2015, I was looking for information again about biology, about some of the Eastern traditions of biology, and specifically the cerebrospinal cord fluid, which is, the master fluid essentially in the body. It's the brain fluid that it gets diverted down the spinal column. And it has a lot of esoteric indications to it. And what I did was I found someone named Santos Bonacci. I don't know if anyone is familiar. I'm sure someone's familiar with him, out there that's listening. He's a very, very, very good astrologer. He also does a lot with flat Earth, and in terms of getting people up to date on, like our rights as humans and things of that nature. So he does a lot of that stuff. So I found his video on cerebrospinal fluid, and then on the right column under the YouTube, the video suggested for you, I saw astrology. So he had like a huge number of videos on astrology, a lot more than on the biology aspect. So I said, what I found in his first video was so good. Actually, the first video changed my life forever in terms of what I learned about what the East says about biology. And I said, all right, so he did a great job. So I'm going to give him a real chance. And I watched his astrology videos, and that was the first real exposure I'd ever had to it. And then I started doing birth charts, over the next few months, and I've been doing it ever since. So the more disciplines that you can accumulate, really, in terms of how they were taught originally, to get as close to the original teaching. If you have a strong biology background, strong chemistry background, strong astrology background, strong background in geography and geology, and just basically as many things as possible, and you take it seriously enough, this is really what I believe. I mean, I'm a smart person, but I also really pay attention. And to me, that's number one. Pay attention, know when you hear something that's helpful and important, and then you're going to be able to apply it. Even you don't have to be brilliant. You can just follow. It's like following the road. It's all laid out for you. You just follow it. So I think that's the summary.
No, and it's interesting how you ended that way, because I remember how I was presenting the map to Michelle, and sorry, what was the other one's name? Amelia, pardon me. Sorry. It was Michelle was mostly talking, so that's why I remember that. Sorry. Because I was kind of saying, like, what is this? This is meant for someone else, and someone must understand this. And then there you go. Like, I mean, apply it. I mean, like another thing too, I talked about this at my lunchtime video, is that I did prep some files that I have that I haven't really shared with the audience about the map either. So I just thought that would be a perfect time to share that, but I'm not going to share it until after you've talked, because I kind of want to be like, hey, it's coincidence that lines up to what I have. I kind of want to do a little bit of a live investigation kind of type reveal thing, which I'm really excited for. So to give you guys a background, this map. So for those of you who may be new to listening and doesn't know what this is TESA. This is how TESA was given to me in forms of what I'm identifying as either in a dream state or a psychogenic download. However it happened, this message was given to me by myself or something else, and essentially I had to draw it on a piece of until and I wasn't able to stop drawing it until I was done. I don't remember starting. No, I remember starting and I remember finishing, but I don't remember everything in between. So and there was also no decision on whether this color should be that color or this should be placed and oriented. It was just start to finish and then done. And then ever since, I've been trying to understand what it may be by things I do know and that I remember or I recognize in this symbol. So before I share that stuff, some stuff I've shared before, but I'm going to get into detail too. But with Dave, I'm excited to see where this goes. So do you want me to start with the slides, or like how? Because you gave me some stuff to share, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Ryan. The slides that I sent over are it's kind of like well, I'm going to have to just explain briefly kind of the baseline of astrology, because that's where I'm coming from. And it's not going to be too long form, because I'd rather talk about the specifics of the design, but I want people to see, and it's important that people see the baseline of, well, for instance, the first thing is it's really the circle. And, any time you see a circle, you should be thinking, and it has something to do with, some esoteric knowledge or something. You should be thinking about astrology, because this is how astrology actually works. And astrology is how, between astrology and astronomy, and the difference is, I should probably define that too. The difference is that astrology, it ascribes meaning to the positionings of the planets and the stars in the sky. Whereas astronomy will agree with astrologers and they'll say, yeah, this is where it is at this date. Venus is up here at this degree in the sky, but that's it. They don't say anything else with it. They just say, okay, we observed it and that's it. And so astrology does that. Plus it gives meaning. So, in any case, there's really two things. The first thing is the circle. So we'll just go into the basics of astrology here first, and then we'll pick up with the design.
Okay. Do I have the right slide up, or you want a different one?
No,
That's the right one? Okay.
That's the right one. Yep. Okay. So what this is showing, and obviously you guys will notice it's a circle, which is the first thing that you're going to see. Okay. So this diagram is showing the equinoxes and the solstices, which again it's actually basic. Again, it's also astronomy, but astrology takes up a step. And so over on the left side, you can see it. Hopefully people can read that. But over on the very far left, it says spring equinox. And the zodiac always starts at the spring date, which is around March 20th. And the sign that's associated with that is Aries. It's always Aries. And so what happens is the spring equinox, you have equal night and equal day. Equinox means equinox means equal night. Nox means night. So it means equal night and equal day. It's a balance, a real balance of the energy for the year. And then that whole top left quadrant is called the spring. And so what's happening in the spring is you get, well, we'll see it in the next diagram. I'll just say it though. You get Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. Those are the three signs of the spring. The sun is increasing in power every day. And in fact, that quadrant is the most powerful quadrant because the sun is not only is the sun getting stronger, but you're also getting more daylight every day. And so those are very positive signs. People who are born under those three signs is, in my opinion, it's a real gift. It makes things a lot easier, actually, in a lot of ways. And then until you get to the summer solstice, which is at the very top, which is June 21st, thereabouts. And that's the longest day of the year. The sun is the highest in the sky. And from that day, you start to now lose sunlight every day. And in fact, the entire summer season, which is the top right quadrant, is it's still hot. It's actually still very hot. The hottest time is generally in Leo, which is mostly August, a little bit at the end of July, and then most of August. But the difference is that the sun is not as strong as it is in Leo as it is at the very top in the summer solstice. So if you go outside around, I'm talking about the northern, north of the equator, it's really going to be reverse for people who live south of the equator, for anyone listening. But what happens is if you go outside on June 21st, the sun is going to feel so strong, even if it's like 70 or 75 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm in the United States, so I use Fahrenheit. I'm not sure if, hopefully people know what 75 would be for Celsius. But, you know, it's not that hot, but it's warm. And if you go outside in the middle of August, it's the air temperature is going to be very hot, but the sun's rays on your skin are not nearly as intense as they are on June 21st. So it's a really interesting, you get a little bit of like back and forth depending on what season you're in. You get some of the left side, some of the right side. It's not all just hot, like blazing rays. It's like the hottest time is also when the sun is dying. And the time when the sun is not dying, it's getting stronger, is not the hottest time. So there's a little bit of, it's actually part of in the TESA diagram too, the yin and yang symbol. Well, obviously we'll get to that. But that is really, there's supposed to be, you know, like a little black dot within the white section. There's supposed to be a tiny white dot in the black section. It's always has, they're kind of contained within each other.
Do you think it might still be there just with the part that's shown and just might be covering it?
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point, Ryan. I mean,
it does appear that it would still be there.
Yeah, yep, that's where it's supposed to be.
I do have a question because it's interesting how you mentioned that the spring is where it all starts. So normally we start our month we start our calendar in January, right? So is that incorrect? Like, should we be counting day one from spring?
Well, I'll actually get to that in a second.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking that is because I'm trying to been trying to interpret the orientation. So TESA obviously comes from at the top here. My assumption, TESA, starting at the top. But if this is the orientation, should the message be ATES?
Well, it's interesting because so the T was definitely at the top, obviously, when you drew it down, right?
Yeah.
That's not, so you didn't take any liberty at all. That was up there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, the T, the summer solstice, that's the shining time of the sun. I mean, that's like the sun is so happy. It's at full power. So actually, no, I actually agree with that. There's nothing inconsistent about that.
That's so strange. Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing inconsistent. You probably have something else you're thinking, right?
Well, no, I don't know, right? Like, but it makes sense. Like what you're like. I mean, I'm the student
Right.
tonight. I'm learning from you right now, man. So like, let's
Right.
keep going.
Yep. Well, the sun loves to be at the summer solstice, so that's a good place to start with the T. Okay, so you're going through the summer top right quadrant, and then you get to the fall equinox, which is at the far right. And again, it's equal night and equal day. The difference being that the sun is still decreasing in power all the way from the summer solstice. The entire right half of this circle, the sun is dying. It's what's called dying in mythology. The entire left half, it's the birth portion.
And that's so strange because the yin and yang seems to be positioned properly.
Oh, yeah, and it's actually and it's actually a lot more genius than that too, because I saw that at first, but there's a whole nother level going on with this.
Well, I will say that if it was me, like my higher consciousness, I was pretty impressed with my smart self. But even though I don't remember, I can't take credit for it.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, if obviously in that moment when you were dialed into a really high energy level or gradient, it greatly enhances, of course, your own abilities. Even if it was partly coming from you, partly coming from a divine source, or whatever the combination.
So sorry, Scarborough asked me a question that might be relevant. He asked me what month is your birth. So I'm June. So my zodiac sign is Gemini. So I don't know if that's relevant, but
well, Gemini. I mean, if you're close to the end of Gemini, that's the summer solstice, right when it transitions over into Cancer. Okay. So June 21st. Closer you are to that day, the closer you are to the summer solstice. But Gemini starts roughly around May 21st. Okay, so you get the fall equinox, so you get the equal night and day again. It's a time of balance. And then now we're in the fall section, which is, of course, where we are right now in the year. And this is when it gets cold. So September 21st, roughly, or 22nd or 23rd, actually is probably better to say that, for the fall equinox. And then as you continue down the wheel, now you're ending up in the real death of the sun. The top part just above that, the summer, that's the death of the sun, but it's still warm. Now you're in the difficult time, which is the sun is still dying and it's getting cold. And actually that's why you're having, Halloween in this quadrant. It's in some ways you can think of it as like the least energy. Halloween is roughly right in the middle of fall. It's like about a week off from that. The direct middle of fall is about November 7th. So it's, only a few days away. So that's why that was celebrated then, because the curtain or the veil and the energy gradient is very low. It's very low and it's very isolated from both the equinox and the solstice by being right in the middle. Okay, and then at the very bottom is the winter solstice, which is December 21st, roughly. And what happens then is that is traditionally called the birth of the sun.
So interesting enough, I got this message somewhere between December 26th and December 29th. December 29th is when I published this for the first time. So I've been holding on to that date as Tessa's birthday. Okay. But I got the vision or the message a day or two, like I can't remember the exact date, just after Christmas, but before that. So what does that mean?
That's phenomenal, Ryan. Well, it means a lot because you guys can probably see, if you can see up close, I wrote birth of the sun December 25th. Now, the solstice is about 3 1/3, 3.333, which is part of where 33 comes from, days before Christmas. So what happens is that you're not actually, the sun basically is what's called as it stands still. It doesn't lose light, it doesn't gain light at the solstice for 3.33 days. And then at the end of that period, that's when you have December 25th. That's why, and then that's when you start to actually have the birth. That's when the sunlight actually starts to increase. And that's why we celebrate Christmas on December 25th. And if you're going to Christianity, I don't want to talk about this. Well, it is religion. It's important, but the sun it's Jesus, the sun, but it's also the sun in the sky. And that's why they're the same word. Yeah. I believe both happened. Not everyone believes that. I believe he was a real person, but I also, of course, since I'm an astrologer, I obviously understand it this way.
Yeah,
So,
in my Masonic teachings, Jesus was a man. He may have, he may have been a Mason himself, but yeah, I agree with you there.
Right. Okay, so then the 26th would be, like the first or the second full day of the birth. So that's like the power day, Ryan. That's when you celebrate because you're getting more and more light every day, starting on the 25th or 26th. That's very, very important. And in terms of the 29th, I would be able to see if I looked at your birth chart for you personally why that day might be really important. I can't see it now.
Well, see, so the December 29th is the only date that I can go back to because that's the date I made this image public. Okay. So, but I do know that it was after Christmas because we were down out in the open area where there's no no pollution of lights or electronics or anything like that. So my mind was completely open. So I mean, it could have been Christmas Day, like it could have been Christmas morning or Christmas Eve, like who knows? Could have been.
Well, it's either way, it's close enough that it's extremely significant because that's the day where the sun starts to gain and more light every day. It's not the 21st. That's what people have to understand. That it's the 25th. Mm-hmm. The 21st is when you stop losing light, but then there's the 3.33 days in between where nothing happens. It just kind of sits in the sky. Okay, so then as you're going up, you're in the birth of the sun now, but you're still in, it's still pretty dark because there's more darkness than light until you get again to the spring equinox. And actually the better term for that, Ryan, is the rebirth. So you have the birth on the winter solstice and then you have the rebirth on the spring equinox. Okay. And they're both very relevant. I wrote, the concepts of the resurrection, the Easter, Passover, they all come from the spring equinox, that idea of the spring equinox. And Passover means you're passing over the center line that goes horizontal of the zodiac, which is the equator. It's actually the equator, passing over the equator, the sun. So the calendar it's very interesting if you pay attention to some of the finer points with astrology, is that the calendar used to start in March. And I don't have a particular day for this. I haven't studied it that much, but I know it did because in March, that's the spring equinox, March 20, 21, 19, somewhere right around there. So the reason I know that is because by the time you get to September is indicating 7. That's the 7th month. It was originally the 7th month. And it got changed. You actually see the vestiges. You see July, which is from Julius. You see August, which is from Augustus. So you obviously know the Romans had a hand in this. But September is 7.
Not the normal calendar. The calendar we use today is not the right date.
Right. Yeah. But thankfully, it hasn't been completely destroyed. And I know that because when I do birth charts, they're accurate. So I'm just so thankful that we still know what we're doing.
So what is the first month then? What is actually the first month?
Well, I mean, you can either call it March.
Yeah.
Or you can call it, I'd actually make it more specific. I would either say the first day of the year should be March 20th. Or it should be December 21st. So It depends on if you're talking about the birth or the rebirth. And the reason the rebirth is great is because now you're getting more light every day, and it's warm, and everything starts to grow. At the end of March, and depending where you live, and into April and everything. So anyway, that's a general pattern of the zodiac. It is the zodiac, but this actually, of course, was also used for farming back in the day. And even people who don't, maybe they don't have an interest in astrology, you have to know these dates because you have to get your seed in the ground. You have to make sure you have enough time for it to grow and produce something that you can eat. And then you have to get it out of the ground before you freeze. So it's very important to know this, even if you're not doing astrology, because it's life or death. When you didn't have a supermarket, you got to.
Well, yeah, our ancients. Where did our ancients learn that, though? You're probably going to get into that too, right?
Well, I mean, that came from above for sure. Which I would just I'd just come out and say it's from extraterrestrial visitors. When I say extraterrestrial, it doesn't have to be. It can be humanoid, but it doesn't have to be. So one of the visitors might be like an ascended human, I would still call it an extraterrestrial. Maybe, for instance, like some of the Nordic races that people have seen. In terms of extraterrestrials, or they can be things like Greys or reptilians or Arcturians, or there's just so many options. But in any case, we can go to the next slide, I guess, if you're okay with that, Ryan.
Yeah, no worries. You just tell me. I'm
okay.
I got them all prepared, yeah.
Okay, good. So that's turned the proper way, right?
Is that the right one? Yeah. I saw that. I fixed it for you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, so this is the same circle, but now it's starting to take form. And it's actually starting to, you guys should be able to see some more of a similarity now to the symbol on the right, to the TESA can symbol. Because the first thing you should notice is it's broken up into 12 segments. And those, of course, are the 12 signs of the zodiac. And you have those, it's the diagrams, it's done a little differently, obviously, but it's the same thing. I guarantee that's the same thing. But I'll get into more of that later. In any case, when you look at the zodiac, you guys can see I drew in I wrote down the names of the different signs. There's 12 signs, of course. And I also wrote on the outside of the wheel the different planets, because each planet rules a specific sign of the zodiac.
Yeah. And
then there's also an element, and actually this is important, extremely important, Ryan, for tonight, because you have the elements on the wheel too, on the TESA can logo. They each have an element that's associated with each of the signs. So, for instance,
are they the right elements at the right place?
Well, that's the part of the problem. But it's not a problem, and I'll explain why. Because
I was just like, I'm getting goosebumps, man, because I don't remember any of this stuff. Like, this is like, how?
No, this is the fabric of our solar system.
Okay.
I'm careful how I say it. It's not the universe. It's this solar system. Okay. So this is the form. This is the grid work behind everything. This is the invisible grid work behind everything that we can see. This is what makes everything operate. So anyway, we'll get to where the signs are positioned, because how it's positioned on the logo I'm completely fine with that. It's just it's slightly different, and you have to think about it a little differently. So anyway,
I could move it. It can be moved. We'll get into that afterwards.
Okay, sounds good. So anyway, each quadrant, of the year, which you got the spring and summer, then the fall, and then the winter, they all have three types of signs. It's either called a cardinal sign, which is the sign that kicks off the season is the cardinal sign. And then the middle sign for each season is called the fixed sign in astrology, and then the last one is called the mutable sign.
Okay.
And those three repeat depending on, every quadrant or every season, you have the same repetition in the same order until you get it back to the beginning. So we don't have to spend a huge amount more time on this now. I just want people to see mostly the division into 12. Obviously how it perfectly matches the division on the logo, and the fact that each sign is associated with an element, which is, of course, going to come into play too as we continue.
Okay.
Yeah, we can go on to the, it says human body chakra system, that slide. I hope everyone's getting excited about this because,
Well, yeah, no, everyone's quiet. They're paying attention. They're listening. Okay. I'm excited. For those of you who listen to this or listening to the podcast version of this, you guys need to get on YouTube. You're missing all of this visual stuff right now. Holy. All right.
Okay, so now this slide, now it's going to start to get, each slide we go into it gets more and more interesting. This slide is going to start to define why, because I remember you mentioned, Ryan, I just want to make sure I'm correct about this, but that this symbol is sitting on the top of the pyramid, correct?
Well, I don't know if that's correct. That is one of my interpretations, and in my section, I'll explain to you how I interpreted it, because now that I'm seeing how you've done it, some of that stuff clicks and makes sense. So then I will explain to you how I interpreted this, and then maybe we can go on for another hour at the end and keep this going and talk about what it really is. Because
yeah, absolutely, yep. Okay, so this
might be a two-parter.
Yeah, sure, for sure. Okay, so this table is actually showing everyone how there's a direct correlation between let me start over at the. No, I'll start over at the left. Okay, so if people are familiar with yoga, and the chakras that go up the spine, they have the 7 different colors, starting at red and going all the way up to purple. Those are called the 7 chakras, right along the spine. And then there's actually another 3 chakras above the head that you can't see. Now, some people think there's a total of 12. Some people think there's a total of 14. So, I mean, it goes on and on. And I've studied this for a very long time. And in my opinion, you find the best proof in the ancient world. So if you're starting to look at some of their diagrams and how they explain things, and one of the last slides we'll get to is, I won't spoil it, but anyway, some of their structures, and you can see, and you should, start to be thinking, it's like, well, why did they make this structure to feature a specific number? Maybe there's a reason for that, that's a good investigator will ask those questions. So anyway, I have on the very left, I have the 10 chakras. The bottom, the first 7 are the ones that you can see. Those make up your body, and then the top 3 are above your head. And each of them has a color associated with them, like I wrote in that second column, and I already went over the colors. Each of them has a metal. This might be interesting too, Ryan. I don't know if you've had any indication of metal elements or anything of that nature, but each of the chakras has
like metal. Like indication where would this metal be located? Would you context? Any context?
I mean, it might somehow fit into the diagram when we go into it. I don't know yet because we'll have to have the conversation. But,
okay. All right.
It starts at silver. Silver is at the bottom and goes all the way up to lead. Lead is at the top. It's the 7th. And then the last column are the 7 traditional planets, which it starts at the moon, goes all the way up to Saturn. And if you look across that table, they all correlate to each other. So when you're talking about 1, you're talking about red, silver, and the moon. And then 2, orange, Mercury, and Mercury. And that goes all the way across. And this comes from the ancient world. I'm not making this up. This is the original, some of the very, very first teachings on this.
No, I know. And all this stuff makes sense to me. I've heard all this stuff many different ways and many different times. But what's interesting to me is that you're lining it up quite well in a way. My mind's just exploding because I'm like, why didn't I think of that? And then as soon as you put that idea, I'm like, it's all starting to make sense. So it's like, so keep going.
Yeah, I agree, Ryan. I wonder why sometimes I wasn't given this information until like the second part of my life. I would have been great if I had it when I was 18. I could have done so much more right off the bat.
I don't know why I was given it. I don't, it's just, I have it. This is the point. This proves the point. It wasn't meant for me. It was meant for you, maybe, and then for someone else. So it makes sense to you. I'm the guy who birthed it.
Oh yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. And that's why I couldn't type fast enough when I saw the logo come up, because I'm like, wait a minute. First thing I saw were the 12 on the outside. Of course, that keyed into that.
I just want to, sorry, I got to interrupt you for a second. My wife piped in here. She said, I'm feeling like during my meditations, Reiki sessions, he is downloading this and expressing it in his unique way. And that is kind of interesting too, that you would say that still, because I do feel when you're doing your sessions and that's when I'm in my creative element. And it was one of those, you're probably doing Reiki, at Christmas time too. I'm willing to bet that somehow, I don't know, yin and yang. Anyways, she's my support. She's the one who encourages me on the spiritual side. So.
Oh, great, Ryan. Well, I was thinking that, if you're in close proximity to someone who is putting out large amounts of energy, then you're going to be affected by it. She
heals herself regularly, and she heals others, and I feel it. I know, good and bad. For context, she's an Aries. I'm a Gemini, so read into that.
That's actually pretty good. There's nothing right off the bat that I would say, oh, that might, be challenging or anything. They're only, depending on where you are. I mean, it's up to, I guess it would be up to 90 degrees apart, but we can go into that some other time with the astrology part of it.
Okay. No worries.
Okay. So, All right, so now we'll go to the top of that chart, and this is when it gets. This is okay. Let me put it this way. Are you still there, Ryan? Hello?
I'm still here. I don't know what happened, but you got this. You
Okay.
don't need me. The show is yours.
Okay, so the logo is going to start to take shape when I start explaining what's above that 7th level. So on the 8th level, and if people remember, I was talking about the 8th chakra is the one directly above the head, and that is equivalent to the mind of the human being. That's where the mind exists. It's technically above the head, and then thoughts actually end up coming in, and they physically manifest in the 12 cranial nerves of the brain. That's how the 12 zodiac signs get into your body. It has to go through the top of the head, and then it goes into the cranial nerves, and then it distributes it from there. Okay, so the 8th level also contains the entire zodiac, and what it's called in the ancient world is called the fixed stars. So the planets, they're called the wanderers. The planets move independently of each other across the sky, and it can be somewhat hard to predict their orbits. It would take quite a while to figure that out. But the stars, they move as a unit. So around the pole star, depending on which pole star it is, depending on where you are in history. And so they're not moving independently, and you can always count on the constellation being there in the same relationship with the constellation next to it, et cetera, because they're not moving. They're just moving as it moves as a big disk, which is why it's a disk, of course. So that's where the 12 comes in. And then the ninth level is called the dream world. And I should mention the 8th level is ruled by Uranus. The planet Uranus rules the stars. The 9th level is ruled by Neptune. Neptune rules the dream world. And I'll go into this in a second because it'll be more exciting when we actually looking at the logo directly. So that's number 9. And then number 10 is what I would call freedom. And that's freedom from the solar system, which means now you can access the rest of the universe, depending on, given the laws of different systems, you can move freely. Okay, so that's that general chart. We can go to the next one if you're ready. If you're okay with that, Ryan.
Yeah. I'm just currently decompartmentalizing my life right now and trying to make sense of
oh man,
why I am the way that I am.
Yep.
This is revealing. I'm uncomfortable, but I like it. Keep going.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, so this slide is showing actually the proper model of the solar system. And again, this goes into deep antiquity, even when it's not expressly stated. Like this particular diagram, I would say probably came out of Egypt, Europe, Egypt, Mesopotamia, somewhere around there. We'll obviously get back to Mesopotamia because it's extremely important. Anyway, so the original model was based on the flat Earth model. I'm sure people are aware of that. And the Earth was said to be a flat plane. And in fact, the word planet comes from plane. Plane, of course, meaning flat. So, that's
so
something
for
to think about.
Are you pro or con flat Earth?
Well, you know what? I'm actually I would say I'm undecided, and I have researched it as much as possible. Pretty much, I've spent days and days and days and days. I've seen proofs on both sides. One of the things I suggested to my friend recently, which is interesting, I said, well, how about splitting the difference? And how about saying, maybe it's possible for some people to say, oh, no, the sun's at the center and the Earth, rotates around the sun. Well, what if I said the Earth is in the center, but it's a globe?
Mm-hmm.
That tosses things up a little bit, because if I say the Earth's in the center and it's flat, that's one option. The other option is the Earth's in the center and it's a globe. The other option is the sun's in the center. And you know what? Actually, they all might be true, because you're talking about quantum levels and stuff like this.
It's interesting too, because the yin yang it was also another interpretation of how the sun and the moon would play with each other on the flat Earth model.
That's true. That's great, Ryan. You're right about that. They do a dance around each other, you know, the sun and the moon. And the sun, the cycles of the moon, well, that's where we get month from, is from moon. Approximated at 28 days. It, you know, varies slightly, but that's roughly the length of the month. In fact, there's some models that actually talk about how the year should have 13 months instead of 12 months, because it's not based on like a 30-day month. It's based on like a 27 or 28-day month.
Well, if you go back to Sumerian, you look at their mathematical system, the base 60, right? We still use that today for time. That's the only time we use it. Everything else is base 10. You know, so you know, so like I'm totally with you on that, and I do share the whole undecided kind of. I agree on both sides of the fence. And and I will remain that way until I go into space and see for myself.
Oh, you know, man,
you know,
Brian,
so,
I agree 100%. I want to see it. You know, I want to see it with my own eyes. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, this is based on the flat Earth model, though, where the Earth is a plane at the center of the solar system. So this is going to make a lot of sense if people really think about it. Honestly, I drew concentric circles because it's actually technically, I would call the Earth I would call the solar system a very big bubble with like 10 other bubbles nested inside of it, or a total of 10. Let me just say a total of 10 bubbles. And at the center of that bubble is Earth. This is the original model. Okay, so then what happens is when you go above that, you have what are called the 10 spheres. And the sphere indicates a vaulted sky, which is the top half of that bubble. Now the bubble, I 100% believe the bubble continues beneath the ground. We just can't see it, and it's in a different matter gradient so that it becomes solid. But it's the same. It's actually a sphere. It's not just like not just a dome. It's the dome with.
So the energy is creating the shape. You mean? Is that what you're saying?
Well, the energy of that sphere is projecting it as a full sphere, not as a dome. Because the dome would just be half of it. You could see the line I drew. The other half goes beneath the Earth, is what I'm saying.
And that would make sense why visibly we can see that dome shape while we're here. But yet the same people that's the thing with the flat Earth thing. It's just the people arguing it. Nobody's been to space. So the ones that do argue it do go to space. But then there's that whole cover up in NASA crap that, you know, so it's like it's hard, you know. You got to find someone who believes in the flat Earth and then goes up to space and then
and you know the dome, like you're just saying, Ryan, the dome might be not part of the Earth but part of the first sphere. And actually that's what some people claim, is that we actually can't get to the moon because it's a luminous body. It's a spiritual luminous body. It's not like the same type of dense matter as the Earth. It's not something you can land on because it's like kind of like a hologram-ish. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that's one of the things that people.
And some say we can only land on it because it's within the dome. It's inside the dome, not outside of it.
Well, and you know what? That might be also true because the moon, it rules the first sphere. So you're going to expect to see the moon within that first sphere. And then to get out of that first sphere, I personally don't think so. I don't think that.
So the other part I totally have to mention, and I keep forgetting that. So we do have some experiencers that do astral travel and do have testimony on being on extraterrestrial crafts. And so Lisa says that she can vouch that the Earth is round and beautiful and fragile from one of her experiences. So that is, you know, that's true and untrue, you know, all at the same time. It's so.
I love that, though. I love the firsthand testimony because I haven't seen that myself, so I appreciate that.
But you still accept the possibility of, like, that's the thing. I was like, I know it's round. I feel like it's round. It makes sense to be round, but then I'm like, it also makes sense that it's not.
yeah, exactly.
You know.
Well, in most here's the thing that's interesting is that most concepts on Earth are dualistic, and it was created that way. And actually, we'll get into that with the logo as well. But it was created to have, it's really weird, man. I mean, it's created to have two contradictory concepts be true at the same time. And that makes
duality. Duality, equality, objective, you know.
Well, then it makes it difficult when you're trying to pinpoint one side, because then if both seem like they're correct, how are you supposed to figure out which one it is, you know? It's a very strange thing. Okay, so anyway, so the 10 spheres, like I was saying, they're complete spheres. It's the best way to think about it is like Russian nesting dolls. They sit inside of each other like that, and it's like a 3D object, and it's a full, it has the top and bottom and everything like that. So that's what you're seeing with this model. This is the ancient model, and actually I'll prove it to you at the next slide as well. But when you go over to the right, you see I drew it so it made a little bit. I drew it in a little bit different way so that you can see that above Earth, let's say Earth is in the center, the flat plane, you have what are called the 10 heavens. And this goes into a lot of, Dante's Inferno story. People are probably looking at this and saying, it is because that's what it's based off of. Okay, so you have the 10 spheres above the Earth, which are the heavens. And at the higher you go up, the density decreases. That's why you have the outer planets, gas giants and stuff like this, and then they get more and more less dense basically as you go out. Neptune and Uranus and these beautiful blue orbs out there floating there, that seems like they're barely there. They're like really mystical. That's because the density has gone way down. And then when you go beneath the Earth, you have the 10 hells. And the 10 hells are supposed to be 10 flat planes, much like the Earth, except the further down you go, the higher the density gets. And the very bottom is what you would call the Earth star, I believe people refer to it as, which is the center of the Earth, which is the dynamo, the molten core, however you want to talk about it. It might also be a sun. It might actually be a real sun inside the Earth, which fits with the hollow Earth model and all this stuff. And then the very top of that 10th level would be your soul star, which is, that's the highest. That's where you find your divinity.
So could this also like tie into the simulation theory, where we're in a simulation?
What do you mean by that, Ryan? Assimilation?
Yeah, what we see in the physical world and what we understand with the metaphysical world and the consciousness and everything all connecting. This data that we're receiving is being implanted, and the reality in which actually exists, we're unable to see it because this is a simulation. Like there's someone, like this is the true Earth, this is the way it was, and then all of a sudden they decided to put us into this, virtual reality, which we're now progressing towards again in this material world.
Yeah, I agree with that. And actually, probably the best way to think about it, I think about it in terms of, I guess I think about it in terms of 21 dimensions. Generally, that's how I do it, which would be the 10 heavens, the 10 hells plus Earth. So they're all kind of holographic. The only one that's not holographic is the 10th level. That's where everything is actually the true form, the divine, true, perfected form. And then it's kind of like shining the light on that 10th level. If you say you got your divine, your perfected form of yourself sitting at that 10th level, and you shine a light behind you, then that light's going to get split into like 20 dimensions, into 20 different density levels, and you have, you technically exist in all of them. It's absolutely fascinating. But no, you're right. And I actually believe in alternate timelines, alternate dimensions, copies of this dimension, infinite copies of the Earth dimension. I mean, really anything is possible. Especially the more you start dealing with these concepts, you can see that there's a lot of stuff going on. Okay, I think there's
so we're just going to pause right now because we got to get to commercial.
Oh, okay.
So it's okay. I was just getting prepped up for it. So we'll pause right here, but we will continue after a message from our professional partners. Also, if you're listening to this live on KPNL Radio or a future podcast, head over to youtube.com/the Experiencers Support Association to see the video that goes with this audio. You are truly missing out on visuals today. Holy. Remember, you are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencers Support Association. We will be right back.
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis and was really taken by his research. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada. Just as interesting, he really goes over how UFO